Good evening and welcome to the DeKalb County Board of Zoning Appeals. Take roll call.
Mary Deal.
Here.
Jason Carnahan.
Here.
Roy Walker. Here. Larry Williams.
Here.
Frank Pulver.
Here.
Andrew Cruz.
Here.
Chris Gallmer here.
Okay. Approval of minutes from October 9th, 2023. Accept a motion on those.
Move to approve as submitted.
Can you make sure you're, okay, sorry. We need a second.
Here, so.
Old business,
We want to do it, all those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No old business.
No old business. New business. Petition 23-15. Copper Creek Rentals.
This is for Copper Creek Rentals, LLC, James Schmuckers, the applicant, 3920 County Road 46A in Auburn, requesting a development standards variance to allow for a reduction to the required lot acreage for a proposed one-lot subdivision. In our UDO, the requirements for new buildable lots is 2 net acres. He is requesting to create a buildable lot, and then but won't be able to meet the lot acreage requirement. He's not planning to have a septic on this property, so I don't believe there to be any issues as far as that goes. But for us to have any buildable lots out of the parent parcel, you do have to meet the 2 acre minimum. He's requesting a variance for the 1.23 acres. Again, he will be using this for a personal storage building. It won't be commercial use at all. A personal storage building is a permitted use in the A2 zoning district, but any structures on that property will never be able to have water plumbed to or from the parcel. A condition of approval has been added that will state that there shall be no septic system placed on the property, and no water can be plumbed to or from the structure on the property now or in the future. And this condition will be added as a covenant to the plat. The Board of Zoning Appeals does need to approve this prior to the plat getting recorded. It did go to plat committee this past Tuesday and did receive a conditional approval based off of the Board of Zoning Appeals approving this lot acreage reduction. Anyone have any questions for me?
We don't know what the building size.
I don't.
We can get that from, is there a
You can,
representative
yeah,
here?
you can ask Mr. Schmucker what the building size is. He will have to meet setbacks, which is on the proposed plat that you have there. So, he will have to meet those. The soil borings, actually, this is the plat that was given to us before the plat committee meeting. So the soil borings have been removed from the plat, won't be on there when they get recorded. And then there's a note that's been added, like with the same thing with your proposed condition to be recorded on the plat as well. But just FYI.
Is there a limitation on what can be built next to the railroad, in between the road and the railroad there? Is that part of the idea that only certain structures will
Well, for
fit
this,
there?
theoretically, I mean,
Something like this, in other words?
right, this makes sense for here, I think. I'm, like I said, I'm recommending approval of the reduction of the lot size. I don't believe that really anyone would probably build a single-family house on these properties. Personal storage is fine. I think he's got the acreage for it. He's not going to be plumbing the property, not going to have a septic on the property, so I don't see any real issues with it.
Any more questions for Chris? The representative for Mr. Schmucker? You state your name and address?
James Schmucker,
I currently live at County Road 41. It's 4993 County Road 41, Auburn, Indiana.
Okay, my question is, what size structure are you,
So right now, to meet the setbacks, it can only be 40 foot deep. And I was thinking like a 40 by 80 with 12-foot high walls. Kind of like ag storage.
40 by 80?
Yes.
And what's going to be the primary use for this?
Storage, as in farm equipment, construction equipment, trailers, just winterization storage. No, probably not. If there's no water or anything, I doubt it's going to be heated. There is not anywhere near. If it was heated, it would have to be propane.
Well, part of the conditions are no plumbing, no electrical.
They said no.
They
no
could have
water.
electrical, we just can't have it plumbed.
Okay.
There's water in it, needs to be drained out.
Right.
So they don't want that. There's no septic. Just surface drainage, I believe. There was adequate amount there. If not, there is, I know the neighbor, I could go through, hit the neighbor. I'm gonna be living right catty corner across from this property. Built my new house. I have a drain going through my property that we could go down and tap into. But I don't feel there would be any need for the drain water. That ain't up to me.
This may be a question for Chris, but you're saying no commercial use, but the application's coming to us under Copper Creek Rentals LLC, so.
That
That's-
doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
still just it's the use of the land. So as
Uh-huh.
long as it's used for his personal storage and he's not renting out storage space or people bringing in their boats, like down the street is one of the self-storage units.
Yes,
Can't be like that.
okay.
What is Copper Creek acres? Is that for Copper Creek?
Copper Creek Rentals is an LLC
Yeah.
I got set up. I got rental houses in that, and I
Okay.
bought this property. I just put it in there with.
Because
The
it's
way
part
it's
of your
not-
rental, yeah, just with your rental house.
So
Okay, that
it's-
makes sense.
just put it in.
You don't have like a storage units somewhere else under them or
I don't
something?
know.
Okay.
This property was parceled off about 4 months ago. Was the seller or you, the buyer, aware of the,
Yes, I was currently. The neighbor, she lives right across the road. That's who I bought it from. She came in a tight spot. She came down, hey, you want to buy this acre from me? And it's kind of just where I got it. Then once I bought it, it's like, hey, if I could put a storage building on it, then it's what.
When you say you're going to build a home across,
It's down the road about quarter mile.
okay.
So I got my personal property down there, 20 acres.
How about the driveway? Gotta
The
have
driveway, I have a permit.
a permit for that.
Yeah, and that's in. There's a parking lot in there.
Shown on the plat there, okay.
It's on the east side.
All right. Okay,
So this entire piece is how many acres?
1.01. I believe. Or is it 1. I think it's 1.1 or 1.01. Should be on the. With all the setbacks.
Okay. Any more questions?
I believe so. I don't.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience that wish to speak in regards to this proposal? For or against? Apparently not. Thank you. Guess we can go to the next
Ready
step.
for findings?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go through these findings, which are provisional until they're voted upon and approved. Jurisdictional findings, Chris, I guess I'll ask you for tonight. Application completed and filed on November 1st of this year.
Yes.
Legal notice published in the Star on December 1st, and affidavit given to staff.
Yes, sir.
Certificate of mailing notices sent and receipts given to staff.
Yes.
And letter from the County Board of Health dated November 16th.
Yes.
Letter from the County Highway Department dated November 2nd.
Yes.
Letter from Soil and Water dated November 2nd.
Yes.
Letter from County Surveyor or Drainage Board dated November 3rd.
Yes.
And the letter from the County Airport Authority is not applicable. I'll go ahead and go down through these with you per our usual practice. The first question that we have to look at is, will the approval of the variance request be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community? Rory, what do you think?
No, the reduction to the lot size to be less than 2 acres is not injurious to the public. The property will be used for personal storage only, and a condition of approval has been added that states there will be no septic system placed on the property, no water plumbed to or from any structure on the property now or in the future.
Number two, will the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance request be affected in a substantially adverse manner? Larry, what do you think?
No, the reduction to the lot acreage may increase the property values in the area, but should not have a negative impact on values.
And will the strict application of the terms of the UDO, Unified Development Ordinance, result in practical difficulties in the use of this property? What do you think, Mary?
Yes, the reduction to the lot frontage will only allow for the lot to be used for a personal storage building. No septic or water plumbed to from the building will be allowed, therefore no single-family residence or use needing a septic system will be permitted on the property.
Okay. The proposed conditions of approval, if this is approved, are number one, the board retains continuing jurisdiction of this development standards variance to assure compliance with all terms and conditions and/or impose additional conditions deemed necessary for health and safety. Number two, a variance to allow the reduction of lot acreage is or would be approved. Number three, there shall be no septic system placed on the property and no water plumbed to or from any structure on the property now or in the future. Number four, comply with any applicable environmental standards as required in Article 5, 5.11 EN-01 in the Unified Development Ordinance. Number five, no off-site drainage crossing over said real estate should be obstructed by any development on this site. And number six, no certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion shall be issued until the applicant files written evidence of compliance with any conditions of the DeKalb County Board of Health, DeKalb County Highway Department, Drainage Board, Surveyor, Airport, Soil and Water Conservation, or other agency as applicable. And further, where applicable, file written evidence of compliance with federal or state agencies where identified in the findings or conditions, the zoning administrator to determine when conditions have been met. And I think there's also, yep, okay. That's it.
All right. Is there a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Rory Walker,
I'm gonna vote no.
Mary Deal,
Yes?
Jason Carnahan,
Yes.
Larry Williams,
Yes.
Frank Pulver.
Yes.
Okay, you're approved. We'll get that plat recorded. I have to get copies from your surveyor, but then we can go ahead and get that recorded probably next week sometime. Okay, I'll be in touch, James. Thanks.
Okay,
Ready for the next one?
yes. 23-16.
This is Green Solutions of Northeast Indiana LLC, Wayne and Carol Klink, requesting a use variance to allow for a compost facility. Properties are located on the north side of County Road 4, approximately 1/4 mile west of the intersection of County Road 4 and County Road 31 in Ashley, and is zoned I-1 Industrial/Business Park District. I'll just go through the staff report, and Jeff, their representative, can come up and do a presentation and maybe answer some of your questions before we get into questions from me. That way you guys have a better understanding of the proposed project, so you're not throwing stuff at me and I'm just throwing it to him. And so maybe we'll answer some questions as we go. In the I-1 Industrial Business Park District, the UDO does not permit or allow a compost facility, thus the use variance is required. The petitioner is requesting a use variance, as I said, to allow for a compost facility of organic waste such as leaves, grass, bushes and tree trimmings, corn fodder, and other agricultural waste. The organic matter will be combined with paper waste from the paper recycling industry to produce high-grade topsoil that is then sold in large quantities to developers, NDOT, et cetera, that can be used for fill. The IDEM, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, has approved the use and permits have been received. For your information, this is the third location in Indiana for this type of facility. There's one in Valparaiso and Porter County, and then in Fort Wayne and Allen County. Also currently working on permits or in Evansville and Vanderburgh County. The Fort Wayne, Allen County locations at State Road 27 and 469, south of Fort Wayne. I did drive by it just to take a look and see what they're doing. It really, you wouldn't even notice it if you didn't intentionally want to drive by there. So really didn't even have any notice that it was there. There is no access off of County Road 4. All access will be coming from the north, off of East State Street, just east of that Casey's gas station. There is no proposed discharge from any kitchen or bathroom facility, so no septic system is needed. A drainage plan will need to be reviewed and approved by the county surveyor and county drainage board. A condition of approval has been added, and a soil water pollution prevention plan, or SWIP, permit will be needed from the Soil Water Conservation District, and a condition of approval has been added for that as well. When I spoke to Glenn Crawford, the county surveyor, he was wanting them to get their contractor to contact him about the drainage plan and what they're proposing. They have their IDEM permit already, like I said, and then same with the soil water pollution prevention plan, the SWIP permit. Again, they wanted to get their contractor in place before they move forward with those approvals. They wouldn't be able to really move any dirt until they would get those approvals. And Jeff Langbin understands that those are conditions that will need to be done prior to us releasing any permits for the project. You did get in your packet, I included the letter that Jeff had sent us for kind of what they're proposing. And then a double-sided 11 by 17 shows a site plan with an aerial on it, and then the site plan just in color of the proposed areas they're going to be using for this project. I'm not the expert in it, so I probably can't answer any questions you have on the actual composting of the facility that goes on here. But Jeff, I'll invite you up just to do a presentation for the board, or if you guys have any questions that are kind of use related or any other questions for me, I'd be happy to take them. But I think this would be a good time for Jeff just to introduce the project and see what, and then answer your questions that you'll have from him.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks. This has got the white specks in it. This is reason that this is used tonight, put it in a blender, looking just like this. Reconstructing or cardboard line. Before this, they were going to landfill. 12 years ago, I was asked to do. Still exists. They were on our third expansion. So this is what that looks like. This is what it starts like. This is what it ends up like. It's dirt. It's really, really, really high-grade dirt. This is combined with the same stuff that you have in your yards, grass, leaf clippings, and so on. So you can look at this stuff, pass around, be careful, there's plastic bags that could rip. So let me give you.
Jeff, can you make sure that microphone
Yes,
is on?
I sure will.
Blue light.
Yeah, I got a nice blue light, and
Perfect.
I've never been accused of speaking too quietly, so we'll see if we can keep that going on.
Thank you.
First of all, I stand before you. You got the second team tonight, boys and girls. My name is Jeff Langben. I worked for the government for 23 years. I ran the largest solid waste district in the state. I'm also an attorney by education. I stand before you not as an attorney this morning, but as a consultant. But for the record, I happen to be the only attorney in the country that's certified to run a compost facility and a landfill. Because of that dubious distinction, my tenure with the state or with the county, most all of the laws dealing with this particular area, I either wrote 100% of or a good portion of over the years. And my dear colleague, Steve Chrisman, who you are aware of.
I was going to mention that now that I was starting to think about who you might be there.
Well, Andrew and I have had conversations in the past, and he hasn't thrown me out of here, so I guess they were good conversations
no.
in the past.
Our mutual friend, Steve Chrisman, is just a great guy.
Well, just
So, yeah.
along for that, I have to apologize for Steve not being here tonight. Steve is my dear friend and fishing partner for 30 years, and actually is the one that asked me to be involved in the project. Unfortunately, Steve is extremely ill, and started therapy today. Will be out of pocket, and I ask you to please remember him in your prayers. He's a sick puppy, and we hope he comes through it all. So, at any rate, with that said, this project, this property is owned by former Mr. Klink. We've had a number of extenuating circumstances on this project, and I guess I need to apologize to you because we've got the cart way before the horse. This thing kind of got turned around by a number of nobody realized. This project was started a year ago this past year. I started working on the zoning on it. We believe to be accurate. This is an agricultural purpose. I issued permit agricultural purpose and it's considered to be land application. This is a compost permit. It has been issued by IDEM. We notified everybody back last year ago, end of November, first part of December, and hearing no problem, we went ahead with the permit with IDEM. And this thing has gone through every iteration I've ever seen. One of the things, as you might imagine, going through it, we have to go through all the normal reviews. Chris was correct, and I'd like to compliment him. Chris has been an extraordinarily great help on trying to get this thing straightened around so that we are in proper. I really do appreciate that. So when we made application IDEM, we have to meet all the different tests. This is the fourth one of these that we currently have permitted, or will be. This is permitted. We have the Valparaiso one, the oldest one, the Fort Wayne, the second oldest one. Then this application was actually granted. And late last week, I received the application for the one just north of that. All with the exact same format, all with the exact same material, all done exactly. This particular one was complicated, as I said. It was issued before we found out that there was a non-conforming issue that we have to deal with. And in visiting with Chris, he was great. And I would like to stipulate for the record, I've met with your soil and water conservation people. I've talked with the surveyor. We will stipulate under no circumstances will anything move forward until Flink family has determined a contractor who's going to do this work, and we come in and get all approvals that are necessary. Chris, again, has been great with helping us understand what needs to be done. I've met with them. We all understand what's necessary. Unfortunately, through this process. Mr. Klink passed away, if you're not aware. He passed away in October, and that understandably has caused this to slow down. There's not been a contractor picked yet. So when a contractor's picked, wonderful Justin Hoffman here is the one that drew your plans. Justin will continue to help the project move forward, and we will come back before those two agencies. Again, with that said, it's a pretty simple process. Composting is pretty much the same thing that's going on in your yards at home or your fields, backyard, farm community. Take organic material, do it on a static basis, do it in a number of ways. This particular one is set up on a static basis. This material, that when we first did it, we thought we were doing a favor by keeping it out of landfill. Since come to find out, it has an extraordinarily beneficial use. It holds moisture better than anything I've ever seen. On the other sides of the function, the oldest one, 12 years, 100-year rain event, 2 hours after the rain event, there's no puddle sitting around whatsoever. The stuff is. So even though this thing is over-engineered to make sure that we don't have any discharge, the proposed plan by them is approved, there will be no discharges until the end. We will not disrupt any of the current drainage on this property or anybody else's. A lot of engineering. The other thing that happens, contrary to what you might think about composting, because you want it to get hot, you think, well, you want it to dry out, and that's just not the case. Moisture actually heats this process up better. Before we started using this material, compost used to take, in this end of the state, about 18 to 24 months. How much nitrogen we had and how many warm days, cold days. With this material, what we found on the other two sides, composting actually increases the temperature and increases the time. So we're able to end up with finished compost in many times under a year, as short a time as 9 months. This material will come onto the site. It will be mixed with a number of other organic materials. It will be left to stay in a static pile. It will be probed on a daily and weekly basis. It will be turned as few as times as possible to maintain that temperature. Maybe as many as 3, certainly no more than or less times than 1. So we have a complete process. When it's done, that it will be sold off. It has unbelievable micro. Every single truckload has to be sampled, has to be filed with IDEM to make sure that absolutely no issue. 12 years, the one in Valparaiso has been done. We have found no contamination. 1/1000th of the time, we had one that approached the definable, found out what they actually take some truck driver, something into it, but pull out the field. Every load is examined. This is probably the most examined compost operation that's an operation, certainly in the Midwest, maybe. And it's been an amazing success. The Pratt paper organization got great quality control standards, the largest recycled paper manufacturer in the world. That's where that material comes from. It comes from a company, one company, Harvest Technologies, that has the contract to bring that material to us. It is reused. This material that was formerly going to landfill now has a useful use. The oldest one that's in operation that is about twice the size of this facility at its max completely runs out of material first part of October. The state thinks so much of it, there may not be, but from I-65 east to Valparaiso, they redid Route 30. 100% of all of the median and sides done with this material, and it's such a good growing meat. They've asked to stay on the list, and they take as much as they can get that doesn't go into. So, with that said, I'll answer any and all questions. We appreciate being able to come before you. Ask whatever questions. If I don't have them, got a backup behind me that.
So where the paper company is from where?
It's Pratt Industries. They have 2 facilities that perhaps will feed this facility. One is right across the border in Marysville, Ohio. The other one is just north of here, just across the border in Michigan. And it's the same exact, same quality, same standards, and it all comes through the same company, Harvest Technologies, that's out of Brattleboro. Same trucks, same truck drivers, same company, same stuff, nothing else. And we can't bring anything else in unless we were to petition IDEM and ask, and IDEM would have to review it. So that's what the permit says. So you're in good shape because IDEM's already issued the permit, so we can't do anything other than what that permit says without having approval, which you will be notified. But that's usually done after we have the local. So I do apologize again.
So the rest of the ingredients,
Local.
okay? So how do you go about collecting that?
We don't collect that. People bring it in. It'll come from landscapers. It'll come from people who have lawn mowing. It'll come from people who are clearing lots and need to get rid of that material. It will come in, and then it goes into, you'll see there's a pad there. Everything that comes onto the site will be inspected, so there's no contamination. Depending on what it is, in order to do a composting operation, rough rule of thumb is you need to have 3 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. So we will sequester to make sure we have a good carbon base. That'll be leaves, wood chips, and so on. When nitrogen comes in, if you were to get a hot load of grass, turns to ammonia compound, 8 hours of being covered. That comes in, it's immediately covered over with the carbon base. And that absorbs that. It doesn't hide it. It absorbs it, actually changes the composition. To give you another little bit of a comfort on that, Steve Christmas, their colleague, actually wrote the National Composting Manual and wrote the use manual for this site as well. So it will be the #1 standard from a local homeboy who can oversee this thing. He's also already instructed both Smith boys, they will become compost certified before this ever happens. And then Stephen and I will also be overseeing it, as well as inspected by IDEM. But it'll be local, come from variety.
My understanding is, from what I saw, Steve Chrisman was actually on a national solid waste board.
He was?
And is basically a nationally known teaching expert on the
is the
compost
expert.
subject. My uncle Daryl told me he was, and then I actually saw it, when he was doing that stuff. So,
Steve is the guru. That's
yeah,
correct.
it's pretty amazing we get, that you guys are able to use him. So.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
What is your nitrogen source besides organic like that?
Well, 90% of the time, on the other sites, we haven't had to bring in, so let me step back. If we were just doing a normal compost site, most of the time we have to figure out at some time in its decay process, an ulterior form of nitrogen. We can do it a lot of ways. We can use poultry waste many times. We can use good old-fashioned dairy cow manure. We can use grass, or we can use supplements. We can use hot nitrogen, sprinkle into the pile, fold it back in. These facilities that are operating this way, we have not yet have to put any hot in. But we don't anticipate it. It's not to say that it won't happen, but on the other ones that are operational, as long as 12 years, we haven't had to put any in.
What's going to be your moisture source? You going to have to put wells down or?
Nope. This stuff holds water better than anything we've ever seen. The natural, first of all, it comes and it's got natural moisture in it. There's the way that they make this thing. They put it in a big slurry and it gets saturated to begin with. So it comes in wet, right? Then the natural rain that we get atmospheric. Even in the driest months, and the Fort Wayne one here is, I don't know, how far is that site, Chris? 20 miles? Okay. You saw how dry this past summer was? We didn't have to water. It holds moisture better than it. It's like a sponge. So we haven't had to, we don't anticipate. In the rare event that we would have to do that, we would take any natural water that was available, we would recirculate. We're allowed to recirculate back into the house. But we never had to.
I worked in the paperboard industry for a competitor of Pratt, about 5 times the size of Pratt, actually. Pratt's a very good company. I think I read that you're going to be bringing in 10,000 tons of material, or processing 10,000 tons of material there a year. And I was just doing some calculations, maybe off, but that's about 10 trucks a week, just 10 semi-loads a week, maybe? I'm
This-
trying to.
This
get-
will
yeah.
generate, first of all, the site, the plan that you see here,
Yeah.
that's at its maximum.
Okay.
This will
right.
come in, it'll start the quadrant right straight at the top there, yes, sir. That's right where the drive comes in, that will be done first.
Okay.
We will go from there, then we will go south, then we'll go back up to the other corner. So to get to that full capacity, because
Right.
as the material is curing, we'll obviously be selling it back off. For us to get to full capacity with the anticipated volumes coming right now, we're looking at probably 4 years.
4 years, okay,
Right.
yeah.
And that's assuming everything goes according to Hoyle and it's full bore. This site is capable of taking as many as 12 loads a day.
12 loads, okay.
I don't
a
anticipate
day.
that to happen.
Right, right. I was just thinking about traffic and the people impacted.
Traffic's gonna come right off the interstate.
Right,
They're gonna come right there at Casey's, they're gonna come right into the road, and it shouldn't have any adverse effect. They're gonna actually enter almost opposite of where the bright mark.
Do you anticipate, other than the private folks coming in, other paper companies to be?
No.
Okay,
No. This, matter of fact, if the permit is in there, if you're here to review it, I can show you
No, it's okay.
specifically. It specifically outlines that it's coming from that paper mill and only.
I saw that.
Yes.
And that's what that
So I
means.
can't do anything
Okay.
other than that unless I go back before I do.
Okay.
And the reason that we did Pratt and only Pratt,
Right.
you're familiar with the industry.
Yes,
Pratt's quality control is second to none.
right,
Mr.
right.
Pratt, for those of you who don't know, is the second wealthiest person in Australia. When he came to the United States 20 years ago, he set out to pretty much revolutionize what's been done in the country. His facilities are, as a manufacturing facility, are unbelievable.
Okay, yeah.
Other question?
I believe Chris made the statement, no water, no restrooms, but you're gonna have workers there, just
Those two right there.
pull in workers?
Well, that's an
No,
issue
I'm
they
just
can take up
teasing.
with their mother. But yes, they're the ones that'll be trained on it. This is.
So we don't need restroom
No,
facilities?
this is a relatively non-labor intensive process.
Okay.
These are the same truck drivers that pick this stuff up at the plant. Once we establish where the windrows are, they'll bring them in, they'll put it on the pile. The boils will check it once a day to make sure there's no contamination. And Mr. Ellis, who owns Harvest Technologies, is doing this. He knows good and well, because he's the one that actually does the testing. If he gives us the contaminated load, it compromises him. So the boys will check it, make sure that the loads are coming in. They will be the only ones that will be turning it, so we don't anticipate having other.
Will this site be locked overnight?
We haven't discussed that. I suspect we'll put a gate at the front, but yes.
To avoid illegal dumping?
Yes.
And that sort of
yeah,
thing?
We're anticipating whether we will do that, Andrew, right at the site or at the gate to the access hasn't been discussed. When the local contractor is picked, that determination should be made. But there'll be a provision so people can't fly down.
Gotcha.
You have to put scales in for selling the product or not?
Sold by truckloads, we eliminate that problem. Roughly 22 tons per truckload is what we get on that. And the stuff is, you can see, it's fairly dense.
It's
dirt.
heavy, yeah.
It's dirt. And if this was the first one, ladies and gentlemen, I would tell you this is now our fourth one. We got 12 years to run in. Most of the problems have already been observed and taken care of. It's pretty straightforward. Other questions?
This might be a question for Chris, but just out of curiosity, what type of zoning would this fall under? You're right. Okay, that was my question, why we're not rezoning it. Okay.
I would assume that when I will look at this. Whatever reason it's not
And the irony, as I understand it, is we're allowed to farm that, but it's an industrial zone. So it's kind of a catch-22 that we're faced in. And I do apologize again, but we didn't think it was an issue. Other questions, concerns? Thank you. I'll sit down and shut up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone from the audience in favor of or this project? Wants to speak? Anyone in the audience that's not in favor of this project wants to speak?
And state your name and address. The record.
I'm Charlie Trapp. My address is 0176 County Road 2, Wokertville. And I own the property on the east side of this property being set up. To start off, I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm not saying I'm for it. My biggest concern is the drainage of my land, because all of it, just about all of it, goes through that property into the county ditches. There's a county ditch that comes onto my property and ends there. There's also a spur off of a lateral that comes into it. So all my water goes that way. That's my major concern. Otherwise, I've been talking to Mr. Chrisman this fall, and everything seems okay to me. So that's, once it goes to the drainage board, I can maybe have some relief on what's going to happen.
Okay.
What is it, Charlie? Just a county clay tile or?
Yeah, it's an old ditch. I've never remember it being anything done to it. It starts in mine and goes west under 69 and goes over and gets into the Brown Albright.
You don't know what size it is?
Years ago, within the past 20 years, I had to dig through my tree line because it plugged up. And what we dug up there was 6 inch.
I see, okay. So it's
But
not.
further down, I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
It goes from my ground across 69 to about Thompson Road. And there's where it joins from the maps I've.
Well, it will have to go through drainage board for approval prior to, as Jeff said, anything being done on the property. Drainage board is not a public hearing like this is, but I could probably get Bill at least to notify you, Bill Van Wy in the back, hey, Bill, to notify you when the drainage board meeting is, as long as I'm notified about when it goes forward.
It is possible just to set in it though.
Oh, yes, it is a public meeting, just not a public hearing that you would be notified of like this
okay,
was.
okay.
Yep, yep.
Well, I'll kind of keep track and watch for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke just before.
You want to come back up to the microphone, please?
We spoke just before the meeting, and I wanted to give him assurances that we will stipulate when we go forward with once the local design work is done and the drain is there, we'll meet with him and make sure that it's to his satisfaction as well. We don't want to cause any compromises whatsoever to any of the property owners. So I'll go on the record. We can make that as a condition of the approval. We will make sure that there's a stipulation that we agree to it. And I'd like that as a matter of the record so that people can talk cheap, but when it's on the record, it's going to stand.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Van Wy. I got to remember what my address is. 537 County Road 35. To answer Rory's question, I talked to the surveyor today, and part of those tires, the Joseph Creed tile, is 12 inches. It comes across there. Maybe 6 inches to where he comes, but they come across, and it was put in 1892.
Wow.
So, yeah, I talked to the surveyor today to find that out.
Oh, boy.
Name is Dan Hoffelder. My address is 386 County Road 39, Waterloo, but my family owns the property at 3040 County Road 4,
which would be clear on the south border, it would border the whole south end of this property. Again, I'm not really whether to say I'm for it or against it, I just have concerns. It's drainage and also what's in the drainage. A couple things I'll bring up right away. I'm just looking at like the application for like where it says south is a wooded lot. Well, our 80 acres has a residence on it and also a barn and a workshop that both have wells that are within a few hundred feet of the property. So, you know, I'm just kind of wondering why it just says wooded lot. And also like on the back here where it's talking about it would affect the property values adjacent, it just says that on 3 sides it's agriculture. So, I mean, there is a residence with, you know, right across the County Road 4, there's a residence that we own. Also, before I kind of get into the water, for 50 some years, we do organic maple syrup back in our woods. So, you know, what's the water going to be coming through? I'll go into the kind of the drainage thing now. I mean, he says the drainage is going to be the same as it was before. Now, during a heavy rain, the water will actually run over the top of this County Road 4 and run across on top of our land during a heavy rain. So it's like, is by doing this, whatever they're going to put down with the aggregate or the compact, is that going to have more water coming towards us or less? You know, things like that. And again, there was some things in the paperwork about, you know, it's not going to have so many PCBs or this or that in it, but as far as what else, you know, might be in it, as far as organic material, I guess would be something that's going to come, you know, onto our property. So again, I guess it's somewhat more to the drainage thing is like, you know, what's going to come off of this as far as the amount of water and what's going to be in it. Most of it would drain our way. Some of it does go to the north on the north part, but really most of where the windrows are would probably drain south. And there is a county tile that runs in our property that goes through our property and into a creek to the far end across some other properties. But like I said, at times it'll actually run on top. It'll overflow the road. Water will run across the County Road 4. It'll get that deep on the other side and run across on top during a heavy rain. So that's, like I said, that's, you know, mostly I just like to know more about how much water is more water going to come across and what might be in it, just, you know, from the process. That's what I'm here for today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Like me to address that issue. Look at the permit and the design. The permit clarifies that there'll be a 12-inch berm around the entire windroad area that you already heard me mention that this absorbs water. It's also designed, and Justin can probably tell you, I think it's a 3% slope to just slope back into the inside. On top of that, you'll notice on the south side of the bermed area and the windrow areas, there is a 3-foot requirement by IDEM berm that will further isolate the material. There will be no water coming from our site increasing into that particular discharge to the south side. And as far as the nutrient value that's on that stuff, you're all familiar with the Miracle-Gro products that are sold for landscaping and so forth. When this material the moisture was actually analyzed as well as the material in it, the micronutrients in it actually are almost identical to what you see in Miracle-Gro. So if anything, it's a much richer moisture content, but it's designed to never leave that site. And that's why that you not only have the 3-foot berm, you've got 2 retention areas, and well as a 12-inch berm all the way around it. There's not going to be water heading that direction. It's designed to be an inflow.
So the 3-foot berm would be constructed of what?
It's actually required in the permit. It's compacted. It's into the next density, well as 2 retention ponds. So it's actually engineered in excess. No reason. First of all, the site is designed to be close to the inside. 12-inch berm all the way around the property. 2 retention ponds south. Well, 3-foot berm beyond that. So likelihood
you said it was a 3-degree slope?
Have to look. It is required. The slope going. I'll have to look. It's required.
Okay. You certainly can.
Something I kind of forgot, and you brought it up. It has to do with the retention ponds. So if you look at the retention ponds, it shows a wetland area, which is there now, which floods, and then it shows a retention pond on each side. So my question on that is, are they going to be deeper than the wetlands? Or, you know, than the wetland area? Is the water going to, is the wetland going to drain into the retention pond, or, you know, or vice versa, I guess, in that? And I see the berm on there, which looks to me is like on the other side of the retention pond. I don't see where there's a berm for the retention, whatever would get in the retention ponds or the wetland area. I don't see anything stopping it from going south. I see the berm is the orange line, which is on the north side of the retention ponds in the wetland area. So I guess that kind of deals with the drainage. Is like, and now it's the retention ponds. They're both on a hill that's higher than quite a bit of the property. So I guess it can be dug out. But I'm just curious, as the retention ponds in relation to the wetlands, how are they gonna lay in the field? And like I said, where's the water gonna go first or last into the retention ponds in the wetland area?
The water running over County Road 4, is it coming from that wetland?
Yes.
Oh.
During a heavy rain, if it's springtime, typically when the ground's wet, water will run as much as a foot deep over a few days over the top of the road and drain all the way on top of the land. They're back through our property, and 8 acres behind it still gets to it.
Has this been addressed with the surveyor?
Well, it has been. They actually just recently did some work. It's not quite as bad, but I mean, whereas it was ponding there and staying for a long time. Now with a pond, and it will go away eventually. We had it before they did some work. They went in and just unplugged some of the tile. So it does go away now. We had a few years ago, we had water there the whole summer almost. So, but it will, during a heavy rain and wet times, it will hold the road for a few days until the tile can take it away. I mean, it's been that way it's probably a tile that's been there.
1892.
We examined that very issue. It's my understanding that tile was clogged for some time and it's been cleaned out. But that wetlands will not go away. That wetlands will stay there. This has been designed to preserve that wetland, and the 2 retention ponds far exceed the amount of water that retention pond was able to receive. The berm above that is specifically to stop anything even getting into that direction. So not only do we have the protection of the existing wetland that's there, there's 2 additional pond holding areas that are designed to be twice the amount of water that could possibly held, as well as the berm to prevent it from ever getting there. And before it ever gets to the berm, it's got to go over a 12-inch wall. And you heard me mention earlier that this stuff absorbs the stuff like a sponge. So we are cognizant of that, and we want to be good citizens. But it's my understanding most of the problem from that flooding came from the existing tile that was clogged from time to time. That has been addressed, and I believe it's helped it some.
So the retention ponds are deeper than the wetland?
They are designed to hold any of the moisture before it would ever get to the wetland and compromise the wetland. The wetland will stay as it is. So they are designed to hold anything that would exceed what the design capacity is to hold it on the pads right now. And it would have to further breach the 3-foot berm that's there that isolates that wetland and protects that wetland. Then that would be diverted to the 2 ponds. And only if those were filled would then overfill into the wetlands. And the likelihood of that, well, I can't prophesize, I'm not God, but from a scientific standpoint, the likelihood of that is near impossible as it can be designed by modern technology.
One of Dan's concerns was wells, or he mentioned the wells, or somebody mentioned the wells. Yeah, and I guess my question for you is as I think about all the recycled paper I've sold over the years, your test, the ink is what I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And what is being tested for exactly? And what are the, and how could that potentially impact a well?
First of all, the reason that these things, in the years gone by when compost piles were allowed to just function before this,
right.
the beauty of this is that we're coming with this additional paper because now this 12 inches of compacted asphalt is designed to permeability of 10 to the -6. That's the same thing that you can actually build a landfill that is not lined with. Moisture is not going to come through that.
Right.
It's not going to breach because of the 12 inch. It's not going to breach because of the 3 foot. And then it's going to be held into the detention ponds as well. And when we did the well borings, this was submitted to IDEM. We have well borings for, I forget how many, but I believe there's about 40 of them that we did to make sure that the groundwater was so far below what could possibly come from this facility. Again, it's been over-engineered. The likelihood of any contamination getting there would be, again, I'm not God, so I can't tell you it won't, but it's been engineered so that possibly can't happen. There are so many protections. Would first have to somehow permeate something that's impermeable, somehow breach 12 and then 3 feet, and then retention ponds and a wetland before that would ever possibly escape. And then if it was, we'd be able to identify it because we're testing the parameter of these and submitting them to IDEM on a monthly basis. There's a whole variety of parameters. If you look at the permit, hold on one second. I will give it.
Oh, sure, thanks.
But if you want to just look at these, I'll leave this with you.
Heavy metals.
It gives you
basically,
every
yeah.
single thing that you can think of.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Talks about the nutrients, and those has to be filed with IDEM on a monthly basis.
Okay.
If for some reason
Right.
they were to show up, all of them that. I beg your pardon. What I can tell you is of the other facilities that we have around the state, there's never been not a single, and they're all in rural areas. There's never been one single one, including the one in Valparaiso, that's actually inside of a sand mine.
Okay.
If that helps.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to get it out there for.
Yep. Those reports have to be given to IDEM.
Okay.
Anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak? Okay. Close that portion. Go to
As long
jurisdictional.
as there's no other questions from the board. Board have any other questions or discussion?
I know I've worked with IDEM enough over the years that I'm sure it's designed for, would take an act of God and 10 human errors at the same time
That
before anything went wrong.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right, no, I agree. Depends on which side of it you're on, but.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
All right. I'll go through the proposed findings, which are not final until voted upon one way or the other. Proposed jurisdictional findings, Chris, application completed and filed on November 9th, 2023. Legal notice published in the Star on December 1st and affidavit given to staff. Certificate of mailing notices sent and receipts given to staff. Letter from the County Health Department dated August 3rd. Letter from the County Highway Department dated November 13th. Letter from the County Surveyor or Drainage Board dated November 13th.
Yes.
Letter from the Soil and Water Conservation District dated November 14th.
Yes.
And letter from the DeKalb County Airport Authority is not applicable here. Now, these proposed findings, there's 5 proposed questions that the Board of Zoning Appeals has to go through. And you can, of course, all give your own particular answers and thoughts on this. Any of you can speak up at any time on any of these. But I'll go ahead and start with the first question. Will the approval be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community? Rory or anybody else?
No, the approval of the compost facility should not be injurious to the public. The site is required to hold only organic materials per IDEM permit. See letters from the county departments and IDEM permit documents.
The second question is, will the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance be affected in a substantially adverse manner? Larry or anybody else that wants to answer on this?
No, the property values adjacent to the property should not be affected negatively. The properties adjacent to the property are agricultural on 3 sides and the Family Dollar Distribution Center to the north.
Just for the record, let's add the residence of Mr., forget your last name.
Hoffelder?
Yes,
Yeah.
to the south.
And Mr. Hoffelder to the south.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
Number 3, does the need arise from some condition peculiar to the property involved? Mary or anybody else?
Yes, the petitioner states that there is a need for the compost facility and a need for high-quality organic topsoil for fill. There is also a lack of properties with the zoning required for the use.
Number 4, will the strict application of the Unified Development Ordinance result in an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought? Jason or anybody else?
Yes, there are no sites in DeKalb County for this type of use.
Number 5, will the approval interfere substantially with the policies of the comprehensive plan? Frank?
The proposed use should not interfere with the comprehensive plan, provided the petitioners meet the rules and regulations of IDEM and the DNR. DeKalb County does not have land that is zoned to allow this type of use. This use on 11 industrial business park zoning district property will have to be approved by the BZA for a use variance. With the type of use proposed and the limited sites in the county, the need arises by virtue of the limited sites in the county.
Now, there are proposed conditions that the staff has recommended as part of approval if the BZA votes to approve it. The proposed conditions are, number 1, the board retains continuing jurisdiction of this use variance to assure compliance with all terms and conditions and/or impose additional conditions deemed necessary for health and safety. Number 2, this would be the use of variance is or would be approved for a compost facility. Number 3, the petitioner must acquire local approvals and/or permits from the DeKalb County Surveyor's Office or Drainage Board in the DeKalb County Soil and Water Conservation District. So that would have to be done if you guys approve it as a BZA. Number 4, no off-site drainage, existing surface water, or existing tiled water drainage crossing over said real estate should be obstructed by any development on the site. The Board of Zoning Appeals may enforce these conditions by injunctive relief with attorney fees. Number 5, no certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion shall be issued until the applicant files written evidence of compliance with any conditions of the DeKalb County Board of Health, DeKalb County Highway Department, Drainage Board, Surveyor, Airport, Soil and Water Conservation District, or other agency as applicable. And further, where applicable, file written evidence of compliance with federal or state agencies that were identified in the findings or conditions. The zoning administrator to determine when conditions have been met. And then there was a 6th proposed condition, as I understand it, and I'll read out my version of it, but you may want to tweak it and change it. The applicant agrees to get approval of the neighboring landowners on the drainage plan before they would build.
was, the addition is number 6, is that what you said?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That pretty broad, that number 6, or do we need to be more specific?
You can be more specific if you want on specific property owners that have come to the meeting.
I think both of them that came to the meeting were neighboring landowners, I think. Their land touches.
Yes, yeah.
Is that what you said in there? Was
I said
and I'll get a
neighboring
copy of that,
landowners.
Neighboring.
Yeah, yep, I said
I'm fine
neighboring.
with that.
Could we,
Yep.
could
That's
we
a
make
good
it,
question, though.
could we make it state that it just the same surrounding landowners that had to be notified for their IDEM permit notification? I'm sure they had to notify neighbors within 1,200 feet or some, I forget what it is, but they would have had to notify adjacent landowners for that. We could make it so they have to notify the same ones they already notified.
Well, I mean, so long as they're adjacent, then it might be the same
Right.
set of people.
That's what I mean, that list would already exist.
They're saying they're gonna work with the drainage, and they have to.
Right.
I mean,
I don't know
if
if you.
they got a
I-
120-year-old tile that they're gonna build on top of, somebody's gonna have to replace it before they build.
Right.
It would, I mean, it's gonna have to be taken care of.
Yep.
Correct.
Exactly.
I would say maybe we're okay as long as everybody understands. But Glenn Crawford is gonna have to take care of it.
It is subject to the drainage board already,
Board
too.
approval, right. I don't know how many's on that list, and if there's 1,000 people on that list,
no.
I'm just saying, if there's, I think you're making it bigger than it needs to
I was just
be.
trying to,
is
I was
my-
just trying to simplify it, because he said about
Oh.
making it specific, and I was like, well, there's already a list, I'm sure.
Is it
Yeah.
a county regulated drain?
It is.
Okay. It should be taken care of then.
Well, you need to clarify what you want. Do you want that list from
don't-
IDEM, or do you want
No, I
just
don't
the people
care.
that were here? And I don't care.
I don't care. I was just
I
trying to
think
make-
saying neighboring, adjacent, maybe we would say that, adjacent or directly. I said approval of neighboring, but we could say, that's bordering or something, but, I mean,
I think that's
Yeah.
adequate.
okay.
Okay.
1894. Okay.
I'd make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Larry Williams. Mary Deal.
Aye.
Frank Pulver.
Aye.
Jason Carnahan.
Aye.
Roy Walker.
Yes.
You're good to go.
Thank you all.
Don't forget your dirt.
You want a motion for an adjournment before we get up and start talking?
So move.
Motion of adjournment? Second. All right, we're